everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsStamp.com, and thank you for joining me today. With Valentine's Day being not that far away, I decided to try to make funny animal relationship cards. As I was flipping through my stash, I came across Christmas Cats stamp set, and being a cat person, I decided to spin these images and create a non-Christmas project. I knew I needed to add something else here, so I picked the funny fish images from the Best Fishes set and decided to stamp a pattern. If you know me, you know I love to stamp custom backgrounds for my projects. Because I also wanted to experiment, I picked 3 colors of paper. I have one that is Simon's 120-pound heavyweight cardstock, Simon's Fog cardstock, and finally Simon's Cream cardstock. All of these are cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I've already practiced a little bit and stamped a pattern onto a piece of typing paper. In fact, I stamped it more than once to try and see what coloring method would work best. This is a rather busy pattern with lots of images, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time coloring all of them. So on my pattern number 1, I did selective coloring and only colored fish and ball of yarn. To add color to my second pattern, I used circle stamps from the Scribble Flowers stamp set and stamped bold, colorful circles. Now, I didn't quite like the way it turned out. I think I should have picked different colors, maybe more brighter colors, but this certainly is another quick way to add color to a stamped black and white background. And finally, to color the third pattern, I used coordinating dyes and ink blending. I created negative die-cut masks for the cats and blended Simon's dye ink to add color to my images. I was actually just about ready to use this particular coloring method, but I realized I didn't have coordinating dyes for the fish, and because I wanted to color the fish the same way, I ended up not using this coloring method. But again, this is a great and quick way to add coloring to any stamped images or backgrounds. Now let's go ahead and stamp the pattern. I'm going to stamp the same pattern onto all 3 panels of mine. I'm using Simon's Intense Black ink. I will be coloring my images using Copic markers, so I need to make sure the ink is not going to bleed when it comes in contact with alcohol, and this ink is perfect for that. I've already mounted images that I plan to use onto clear blocks, and I have 2 cats and a ball of yarn from the Christmas Cats stamp set, and also fish from the Birthday Fishes set. I'm going to start working on my panel by stamping the 2 cats in the middle. The idea is to have cats and lots of different images around them, so fish and yarn balls. You can also add additional elements to your background, but I felt I had enough different images for mine. Now, I knew I would use 3 colors to color those, so I kept the number of additional images to 3, so 2 kinds of outline fish and 1 ball of yarn. I'll be honest with you, I didn't do a very good job stamping these patterns as I got carried away a little bit and stamped the cats so that they ended up looking like they are on a straight line, or a diagonal line in this case. I always try to avoid doing that, but this time I didn't pay enough attention and messed this up a bit. I did think about starting over and re-stamping this, but decided to try and save my pattern. I'm actually glad I did because it didn't turn out too bad. I actually quite like the finished project. I also used 2 small solid fish images and filled any gaps in between my outline images with those little images. It's always a good idea to use stamps like that. You can also stamp little dots or hearts to fill in the background. I stamped identical patterns onto my Fog and Cream panels and move on to coloring these images using Copic markers. I recently mentioned that I don't have a lot of colors of Copics and that I always try to stick to the same colors or color combos or the same marker numbers for particular colors. I even created a chart for myself where I colored same image using Copics to know the colors I like to use for, say, reds, oranges, and yellows. And I'm using this chart now all the time. So right now I'm using colors from my chart, to color this pattern here. So I'm using pinks to color the round fish, and the colors I have are RV14, RV13, and RV11. To color the oval fish, I'm using orange colors, and I have YR07, YR04, and Y17. So I'm coloring all identical images using same colors of markers. It just makes it a little easier and more organized, I guess. And finally, to color ball of yarn, I'm using greens, and the colors are YG67, YG63, and YG03. You can choose to color all images in this pattern, but that would take a lot more time. I thought about coloring cats, but truth be told, I'm never good at that, so I decided to skip coloring kitties, not to ruin my project. I actually did color them on the cream pattern, and that's how it got ruined. You can also use other coloring mediums to add color here, maybe use watercolors or pencils, not just alcohol markers. I did add a little bit of color to my cats. I used R20 marker and colored the insides of the cat's ears and also added some blush to their cheeks. And finally, I flicked the same color to color their bellies. I wasn't sure if I wanted to do that or not, but I really felt like there was just too much white on this panel, so I needed to add some more color. To create a sentiment for my cards, I heat embossed Dreaming of You from the Seeing Stars stamp set in white embossing powder onto black paper. The idea is that kitties are dreaming about fish. I think this makes a fun and unique type of relationship card, maybe a love you card, especially if you have fun nicknames for each other. My hubby and I have fun nicknames like that, so I thought it would be fun to create a card like that with a hidden meaning. I hope this makes sense. I adhered my panels onto A2 top folding card bases. The white panel was adhered directly onto the card base, and the gray one was trimmed down to 4 by 5¼ inches and was foam mounted for a pop of dimension. I also foam mounted the Dreaming of You sentiment panels in the middle of my projects. Now, I always like to add some details to my cards, so I decided to adhere googly eyes to my fish and make this card even funnier. I used a glue pen here, but it didn't want to hold the eyes in place very well, so I later re-adhered those using red tape. I started this video with 3 panels, and I did stamp and color all 3 of them, but like I mentioned, I masked one of them up, the cream one. So to somehow save it, I cut the individual fish out and foam mounted those onto my sentiment panels. I used a black Copic marker to add color to the edge of the paper to hide the white color that you could see from the side. Lastly, I used a white gel pen and added little white dots on the fog panel to finish my background. I had a blast stamping and coloring these, and I encourage you to do the same. If you're not a cat person, use a dog image. Pair it with a dog toy or even a cat stamp for a fun background. You can also pair cat images with mice or birds. There are lots of possibilities. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope I was able to inspire you to create. Here's a closer look at these kitty and fish cards. Be sure to give this idea a try and do tag us on social media so we can take a peek at your projects. You can find the list of supplies I used for these projects down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!